Well, good morning once again. Man, another makings of a beautiful fall day here in Crestone, Colorado. Grandpa Peter Koyote coming to you once again from somewhere out here in the universe, flying on his own little spaceship this morning. Hey, let's start this day off right. Let's just give ourselves a nice little hug this morning. Just tell yourself how much you love this person that you are, and just settle into that. Be that person. Feel that love that you have for yourself. And if you can't love yourself, you can't love anybody else, or at least you won't recognize that you do. If you don't recognize this love inside, you don't recognize love or anything else outside. You got that? It's nice to be alive and be this person that you are. It simply is. This is probably a part of one of the biggest cosmic jokes ever performed. You see, this thing we call God, this thing we call creation, to me that's what God is creation and the intelligence behind it, the love that makes it be. I don't see God as a big old bugaboo in the sky that's keeping score on us and, giving us good marks and bad marks in the big book in the sky, and then we go see St. Peter and he says, well, you didn't do good enough, back to Cleveland. Or Calcutta, even worse. But somehow those places can be beautiful too, even living in abject poverty. That's the joke. We are ascendant beings. We are gods, if you will, masters of the energies of life. Yet we've chosen to come back here and be something quite different than that. That's the underlying irony in all of this life that we live here in this virtual world we call reality, this 3D thing, this flesh and blood and these trees and flowers, all that stuff. Whatever it is, we've chosen it. And we're much less. Remember how we come in as babies and then we absorb the world around us and become that. Okay, we're much less in our perception, which is very important. It's perception. It's the way you see things. Than we really are. And so, finding out the truth about ourselves, remember it, putting away all of this so-called programming. And it is programming, but it comes to you from those around you. Have you ever noticed, are you conscious enough now to see how the human dynamic works? I tell you, there's a sense of humor in it, big time. Oh, man. But, you encounter someone. Let's just take one little example. You encounter someone on the street, someone you haven't seen for a while, maybe, somebody you're close to. And instantly, there's an awareness of how that person not only feels, but how they feel towards you, what they're seeing before them. And at the same time, there's a broadcast going forward from you. This is silent, invisible stuff as far as 3D world goes. There's a broadcast going forward from you that tells them the same thing too from you. What are you thinking and feeling of this person? Are you really happy to see him? Or are you just fulfilling social obligation with your old friend? You see how that works? It's there. And then we talk over the top of that. We have, like, this person might be angry as dickens at you right now for whatever the reason. It's probably unjustified, it usually is. But this person's angry at you. You feel that anger immediately. But because you don't want to deal with it, you want to deal with it in a different way, whatever. Good morning, how are you? Good to see you. And you give them a little hug, and you start this conversation. Well, it's been a long time. Where you been, man? What you doing? You know, and they start telling you all about their executive wonders and, you know, the life they've created for themselves, you know. And everything is kind of superficial because you're not dealing with what you already know right there under the surface. You see, that's the irony. It's part of the joke. You know, boy, there's a sense of humor here. It's a part of the joke. Because we can go into these roles automatically and completely ignore, for the most part, because you can't ignore it altogether, it works underneath the surface, but completely ignore for a while the feelings we have that we're receiving from one another and giving, you know, and sharing. It goes like that. And then talking over the top of it, you know, creating a whole different dynamic in this mental realm, which still is spirit and physical too. It's all combined, but it's like, you see how it can be in different levels? There's a level of true communication, and there's a level of surface communication. In the visible perceptions, what we see, what we feel is often ignored. What we see, the perception we create, that's what's important to people. That's what we've been taught since we were tiny little kids. How to be unreal. How to ignore truth. So it's become, because of the way we've been conditioned, it's become almost an illness to seek truth, to start acknowledging truth in these simple little ways in our daily lives where it all is. So from here on out, folks, brothers and sisters, sisters and brothers, mothers and fathers and sons and daughters, we're all going to be together in this. We're going to recognize the togetherness, because if we can start recognizing these feelings, which again, here's the surface level where we're speaking and conveying energies of a different sort. Here's a level where we really feel what that person's doing. And here's a level down here that you can't even see on screen. That is truth. It's the love, God, creation, that is happy as a clam that we're going through this experience and learning while we're doing it. Good God Almighty. There is so much beauty here, and we've been taught so to focus on the ugliness and resist and fight. You know, even inside of ourselves, we have needs, desires, wants that are a little strange, a little corrupt in the way of the world. It's just the way it works. And we suppress those because they're not acceptable, whatever it is that we're feeling there, for one reason or another. See how you're taught from the time you're tiny to stuff your feelings, to stuff the truth, to run away from it, to be unreal within yourself, and to be unreal with every person you meet and encounter. The surface world. Live in the surface world. God, what a joke. But we have these helpers and friends that are here with us all the time, and again, they're invisible, you know, but you can feel them. Again, it's that next level of communication. Feeling, which is knowing, which is truth revealing itself on one level. But then you go down, because there's several different levels. It breaks into little subcategories. But finally, the nut, the truth. The being that's living through you, that's watching every move you make and participating in it with you. That's you. That's your higher self, as they call it. But that's the love. That's where it is. It's right at the root of your very being. right there. You know, that place there. That's where it all centers. And that's what we call the human heart. And there is a brotherhood of the heart. Remember what a brotherhood is? It's people of different genders, beings, let's say, of different genders, gathered together to participate in one aspect of creation. They're specialties. It's a specialty thing, you know? And we have a group here on earth called the Brotherhood of the Heart. That's who human beings are. That's what we are down there in that deep place that we're so afraid to find because we are so conditioned against truth. That's the message we get from the time we're tiny. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Toto, shut up. And the wicked witch always gets her way. You know, she don't milk in this one, but guess what? Somebody tossed a bucket of water on her. She is on her way out, poor girl. But guess what? As she falls, she rises. Because she begins to remember what she was before she turned green and ugly. And that's what she becomes. Because she finds in her death that life. Dorothy and Toto got nothing on you, baby. You're just as equally innocent and as beautiful as they are. You just got to realize it. And sometimes you go to death to find your life, to remember. And it's not a bad thing. Especially if death doesn't kill you, if it doesn't separate you out of the virtual world for a bit. You know, if it just brings you close. Maybe you go out of body for just a little bit. And feel that love, that light. And remember, that's the level we live it on. That's who we really are. And this is such a joke. This life with all of its struggles. And you know, it's amazing to me how they've put everything into little categories. We have. You know, we have. We've allowed it. We've created it. We've done it. If we can see that and not feel guilty and ashamed, baby, we're there. You know, perceptions will open immediately. But, oh my goodness, I tell you, we carry on so. We just carry on so. But there, at the bottom of it all, the ascendant being. So ascendancy is really just coming back to truth. To recognize that we are programmed not only to resist truth, to hate truth, but to run from it, to fear it. That's where the hate comes from. You notice most truthful beings that have lived in this reality usually go out in a pretty ugly way, you know, because people around them, you know, because of their conditioning, just couldn't allow that truth to be. That's how dark times were when some of those beings were around, got hung up on a cross and burned at the stake, and, you know, all the nasty things that reptilian minds can think of when they're hurting. But the truth is, when you come to your death, you find life. And it's the same for the Wicked Witch as it is for Dorothy and Toto and the Wizard. You know, everybody goes through it. Everybody is the same in that regard. We come from the same energy, the same source, the same life. We are love personified and acting out the most beautiful play that's ever been created. I tell you what, I wish you could hear the applause. Do you know, a single human life. I once went to this place. Now I know I talk a lot about traveling like that in what you'd call the spirit realm. It's what happens when you know, open up. You start to move in different ways than you ever have. To start to know that you're moving in different ways than you ever have before. That you really are a spiritual being creating a human experience, a beautiful, dramatic comedy. Yeah. So we go to those places. And I go to that place, which is a great big city. But it's not busy with cars and trucks and pollution and noise. It's filled with love and light. And there's these big old stadiums, kind of like our football stadiums here in the U.S., that, hold uncountable numbers of beings, maybe 1 billion or more. And in the middle of this stadium, there's this kind of domed thing. And there's all this brilliant light coming out of it, flashes and light and dark and, different colors. And it's a beautiful thing. And everybody in this huge stadium, there's a whole bunch of beings there of all different sorts and types from all across the universe. And they're participating through this domed light, lighted up object in the center in a singular human life. They're experiencing with that one person the feelings, emotions, drama, comedy, everything, every moment, every breath that person takes. And they are so connected through that symbolic dynamic of that dome that it's almost as if they're the same person. It's like going to a movie that you live in, you see? And those are the ones on the outside of the virtual world, yet who are inside of it with us because they're like players on a computer game, They're out here pushing the buttons, but they only push the buttons you tell them to. From the deep level, you see. We create these experiences for ourselves to help us understand life and to live it more graciously. I mean, you can't know grace unless you've been without it. That's the joke. That's the irony. You see how this works. It's crazier than hell, yet it's perfect. And that's what makes this world, for all of its awfulness and all of its beauty and wonder, such a great place to be. We're the love of life, creating itself again and again, performing in one of the most beautiful movie plays, like I said, ever created. It's amazing. So, the consciousness that you feel as you come near to death is the very consciousness, the light and love you had when you came into this world and became that first human being. So you see, they're almost the same thing, birth and death. Another ironic twist in our little particular extension of reality here. And in that death, and this people we're all experiencing now. You wonder why intensity and drama's going on right now. You wonder why you have huge emotional swings and go from highs to lows and everything in between. I do it too. It happens to everybody. It's the energy of the times. But you wonder why? Because you're coming near the truth. You can feel it rising within you. And it makes you anxious as hell, because remember, you're afraid. Feel that fear. Acknowledge it. Be part of it. It's what we've been trained into by the world around us. We are afraid of truth. Truth is death. Because when you come close to the truth, you're dying. You're leaving. You're going home. Well, halfway home. Real home waits for us yet. That's ascendancy. We go back to what we really are. But with a raft of experience that has deepened and ripened us like fruit on a tree. And baby, when you pick this plum, it's the good one. You know, it's the one that melts in your mouth, not in your hand. God, I love those old ad slogans. The 50s and the 60s were the tackiest times on earth for advertising. But baby, some really neat sayings come out of there, and some really neat things. I'd like to teach the world to sing in perfect harmony. Like that. Baby, we you know, it was crazy times. These are crazy times. It's all a beautiful truth. So you're here to experience that. And I told you in this video, I was going to let you inside of me. Well, guess what? I already have tricked you into it as we've gone along. So now you're beginning to see the true nature of the universe. Through old Grandpa here, yeah, but look, it's reflecting back to you. It's right there inside of you, babies. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Surprise again, huh? Yep, babies, we are rocking and rolling. And this thing's really a strolling. And the life that's coming up feels like death and makes us all nervous as an ant on a hot rock, trying to run his butt off to get off of that thing before his little legs burn off. That's how we feel as we come towards this moment of truth, an acknowledgement of our true source, our true self, a change in our perceptions, a return to honesty, where these feelings that we have, these instant awarenesses that we have, are what we communicate about. And guess what? We're starting to put even language, these naughty little words we talk out of our mouths. We're even starting to put that away and use those a little more sparingly as we go through this process, because we'll be communicating on what you'd call it telepathic, but it's a heart-to-heart level. We used to do this long before any of you can remember, yet that remembrance is in you. We used to be that. I went back there once. I'm going to tell you this one last little story. I went back there once. And to that time before human beings became what we are now and are allergic to truth. Before that, you notice every truthful step you ever took in your life was always preceded by some kind of struggle. You know? Always. You see how that works? There's resistance to truth here, big time. That's what we're all feeling. Yet truth is steadily marching its way through us. And we ain't going away this time. We're going to throw that bucket of water on that wicked witch and have some fun. So anyway, I went back. Way back in time. I don't know how far back it was. I wasn't given terms of years. I could see the timeline going beneath me, more or less. So we went past over. But you wake up in this place. It's a city built on a mountain. Not a big one. A beautiful place. And it's like thought has created this. It's made out of, kind of looks like sandstone. A little brighter, a little smoother, but kind of like that. And we're all, these beings, about 7 foot tall, as I would estimate it in today's terms. And we're elegant and beautiful. There's male and female, but everyone is pretty much uniform in appearance. I mean, it's not like we're total duplicates. There are the personal differences, but they're not so exaggerated and extreme as they are here now. And we're these beautiful and elegant beings. We're living a very blessed life as human beings. But it was some kind of in-between state. It wasn't as dense as we are now. We could create with thought. We didn't have language. We had heart-to-heart. We had communication with the beings throughout the universe. And we traveled back and forth to these places. Distance wasn't the same as it is now. And there were flying machines back then, similar to airplanes, but not near as noisy or clunky. They were mostly created for our pleasure and enjoyment, so we could experience the air in a different way. I don't know if we flew then or not. I felt like I was floating when I traveled around as this person back then, you know. But we were like happy, brilliant, beautiful, living in elegant places, doing elegant and gracious things for one another, and working together as a crew to bring about the greatest changes the universe had ever known. We were consciously preparing ourselves for it. But at the same time now, we're creating another dynamic. And I saw this two-headed woman come from the far reaches of the universe, kind of like the Wicked Witch of the West. One head was blonde-headed and one was dark, and the two-headed, and she's kind of husky, but she's a genetic specialist, you know. But these two heads always arguing with each other. It's crazy. Well, not always, but most of the time they argued over just about everything. And she comes and establishes a base on the moon. She's brought here by some darker energies. Now again, remember, we're creating this little dynamic. And this may just be a symbolic story, but it's a truthful thing as far as I'm concerned, because I've gone back and lived it and seen it. And it's a little off the wall, but it's beautiful. It's a story. It'll indicate to you what's happened and what we're about to change. Okay, so this two-headed woman comes to the moon and hides up there in an invisible underground place and begins cooking up this stew in this great big old cauldron, only it's not food. This is the genetic plasma of the universe. She's getting down to the basic nitty-gritty stuff, and she's got, I mean, it's like, I'm not sure part of this was symbolic, but she's got this great big huge black cauldron, and she's got this big stirring thing. She's stirring it. And I go there, I float up there, and I go there, take a look inside it. I see faces and figures and forms floating around in that, kind of in an etheric goo. It wasn't really a goo, more like a liquid, you know, a light liquid. You know, and she's working on this, I mean, for a long time. And there's other beings there that are helping her. You know, remember now, we're creating this. This is the dark dynamic. This is how we drew the brotherhood that fell away and it lost its like pretty much completely in this little drama play here. Well, this is how we drew them back in. But this is, okay, now remember, we're these elegant beings living on earth and having a beautiful time and a great experience. Well, one day the stew is ready and it's going to be served. So the two-headed woman brings the cauldron up to the surface of the moon and pours out the contents onto earth. And baby, things began to change. Wow. There were huge earthquakes and eruptions. Parts of the earth separated from itself and moved off. Everything changed. In this city where I was, up in these tall mountains, there was a huge fracture in the earth. Ripped right through the middle of what we would call an airport now. Wow. And we woke up different. We came from a good night's sleep, and I looked at the woman next to me, and she turned into this little short brown person. She wasn't the tall, elegant being anymore. And I don't know what I looked like, but it was a denser feeling. It's the, you know, and then this noise. There wasn't communication. This noise started coming from this thing, and it's like, what the heck is that? You know, we had to learn to live all over again. Most of us were gone. Most had separated from the earth because they could not endure the experience of the change. It was utter devastation. And we couldn't recreate it. Normally our thought would just bring it right back. No, it was gone. It was the introduction of death, of life, birth as we know it, and that funny little process we call making love. All of that started right there and then. But of course it didn't begin immediately. Those beings, people of different characteristics gathered together. And it was determined that it would be best if we went off to opposite ends of the earth, more or less, and began over and started recreating ourselves and bringing us back to this beautiful place where we lived before. But it's going to take a long time. It's going to be an agonizing journey. But that's the way we had to go out and work out these particular dynamics of these genetic changes that we'd gone through. And they were huge. And they were instant. It wasn't something you had to wait generations for. Bam! There it was. You know, just like that. And so, with much sadness in our hearts, but a whole excitement, because we knew the outcome would be well. We'd drawn the fallen brothers and sisters in with us. They became a part of us, and we a part of them. And we flew off to the far corners of the earth, each of us taking a different aspect of this new genetic change. And it wasn't just physical. Genetics run throughout the existence. That's the programming, the diagram by which life creates itself and becomes the particular form that it is. So, you know, it's on a spiritual level too. It goes through all levels. You know, so we parted off, flew off to those far off places, and the earth created new nests for us, and we began again. And that's how we become these beings that we are now. You know, Lemuria, Atlantis, the civilizations we know of in what we call ancient history, those were outcome from there. That was after this particular place I'm talking about. So I guess in a way you could say that was how we fell out of the Garden of Eden. You know, it's probably what that story symbolizes in a deep way. I've seen a lot of other things. I'll share some more stories with you as we go through this. But just remember the generations as you go through this experience now. And appreciate what they've gone through in order for us in this generation, in this time frame, to gain back what we lost so long ago and bring our so-called fallen brothers and sisters right along with us and leave no one behind and go back to being what we truthfully are. There was another time when I first came to Boulder, Colorado many years ago, where I participated in an experience. And this is the good one. And I was lying there on my sister's floor in her little apartment there. And I was taken into a dream state, a visionary state. You know, doing a little communication. And I heard off in the distance this noise like somebody had their stereo turned up real loud. And normally I can just filter those things out and just stay in the realm and do my thing, you know. But this day, that sucker wouldn't leave me alone. Just kept getting, you know, said, pay attention to me. So I did. I went and focused on that distant noise. Then it was the angels singing in 18-level harmony, or at least what I thought was 18-level harmony. God, it was awesome. This song that Creedence Clearwater Revival created back in the 60s. Proud Mary. Left a good job in this city, working for the man every night and day. Better never lost a minute of sleeping, worrying about the way things might have been. Big wheel keep on turning, Proud Mary keep on burning. And we're rolling, rolling, rolling on a river I should say, yeah. And as this huge chorus expanded, I was taken to a place where there's a valley and there's a river meandering through it. And at the end of the river is this huge waterfall that feeds the river. And it's kind of goldish colored water. It's beautiful. The water just sparkles. The fish and the creatures that live in it are happy. And you know, of course, it's kind of a jungly place, but it's not overgrown. It's just beautiful and full of life, and everything's happy. And there, on that river, are a series of canoes. And they look kind of golden too. And 2 persons in each canoe. And they're paddling up the river towards the waterfall. You get the picture? It's us. We're coming home. It's time. The joke's finished itself out. And it's a good one. Love you guys. See you on the next go-round. Take care. Oh, and remember, feel the love inside yourself.